If you're going to carry blocks weighing up to 2 or 3 tons right to the top of the Great Pyramid to complete your work, you're going to need a ramp that's going to extend out into the desert for more than a mile at a 10-degree slope. And it's calculated that a 10-degree slope is about the maximum slope that human labor can haul objects up a ramp. And that ramp can't just be compacted sand. It's going to have to be made of very solid material, almost as solid as the pyramid itself. Where is it? Where are the remains of those ramps that are supposed to have been involved in the construction of the pyramid?
No, that's to the east.
No, to the east. I'm serious. There's 3 like golden orbs that keep popping up and disappearing. I'm being so serious. Alex is recording my video right now. And yes, I'm a little bit drunk, but there's still 3 golden orbs.
No.
Alex said, dude, it's doing some weird shit. Alex saw some of this video. They keep appearing and disappearing.
Alright, they're all gone now.
Now they're all gone. I wonder if you'd even be able to see it from the top. What do you think?
Probably. Oh, one's popping back up low.
It looks like it has like a streak going behind it. It's to the east, like really straight to the east, and it's like cold. Can you see that little thing by the palm tree? Okay, well, do you see it? Watch. It's still there. It just disappeared.
And it's moving.
There was 3. There was one I was telling Alex, and he's like, "That's a plane." And I was like, "No, it's not." And then the 2 other ones popped up like in sync with it. Oh, there it goes again.
Now it's low. Super low.
If you look into the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, they describe something extraordinary, a single master architect who claimed to have built the Great Pyramid itself. These texts are estimated to be over 36,000 years old. In them, Thoth writes, "Built I the Great Pyramid, patterned after Earth's force, so that it too might remain through the ages. And it has, perfectly aligned, untouched by time." That means the Great Pyramid isn't 4,000 or 5,000 years old. It could be closer to 38,000 years old. According to the tablets, Thoth descended upon the land of Kem, what we now call Egypt, with a crew aboard a great ship. He rebuilt the land, restoring its balance And after years of work, he told his team to spread across the world and duplicate what they had created. Soon after, pyramids and megalithic temples began to appear everywhere, using the same design, the same building techniques, and the same alignment with the stars. Thoth eventually left Africa, taking the Olmecs with him, and built the civilization of Teotihuacan in Mesoamerica, a site perfectly aligned with Orion's belt, just like Giza. The base of the Pyramid of the Sun is identical in size to the Great Pyramid of Giza, and its height is exactly 50%, down to the millimeter, different continents, same math, same alignment, same architect.
Check this out. The pyramid, the Great Pyramid, is located at the center of landmass on Earth. Not the center of the Earth, the center of landmass. Now, the only way you can put the pyramid at the center of landmass is you have to have a polar orbiting satellite. If we were to do it today, a polar orbiting satellite that's orbiting this way, and as the Earth spins on its axis, you're taking swaths of data and you're calculating the landmass, and then you're going to say, okay, this is the center point for landmass, and you put it there.
So the center point for landmass being you take the surface of the Earth, what percentage of it is covered with water, where the ground is,
right,
and then you find the center of where the most ground is,
yes,
and that's where the pyramid is.
Exactly. The next thing is taking all the average heights of all the peaks on Earth and then dividing that to get the average height and making that the height of the Great Pyramid. Now, you can't just randomly calculate those numbers, okay?
That's the average height of all the mountains and the peaks on Earth?
That's right.
Wow.
That's right, and that's an absolute fact. The Grand Gallery, the latitude of the Grand Gallery inside the Great Pyramid leading into the King's Chamber, the latitude are the exact digits of the speed of light in meters per second. You can't just randomly calculate that one.
This world isn't what you've been told. The Great Pyramid of Giza? It's not just a pile of rocks built by primitive people. We've been lied to. Evidence shows the pyramids were once hit by a massive flood. And the builders? They knew how to tap into Earth's energy. And they understood the stars better than we think. All the pyramids align perfectly with Orion's belt. That's no accident. They probably used that knowledge to harness celestial energy. And here's the crazy part. The materials. Back then, the Nile ran much closer. Ancient water channels brought the river right to the pyramid's base. The base itself? Made of conductive granite filled with quartz crystals. And quartz has a wild property. Put it under pressure, it generates electricity. The pyramid's massive weight kept constant pressure on the quartz, creating a steady charge. Meanwhile, the flowing water around it generated electromagnetic energy, like a natural power plant. Water, granite, quartz, all working together to make power. And the missing capstones? They acted like transmitters, directing and maybe even sending energy wirelessly. These weren't just tombs built by slaves. They were advanced energy machines. Think about it. Why would a tomb need electricity?
This stone pyramid was discovered in central Mexico. It's made of 3 separate stone sections. When researchers carefully separated the pieces, they found something unexpected inside. Each section was hollow, like a hidden container, and inside were ancient coins, sealed away for centuries. No inscriptions explaining who placed them there. No records describing their purpose. Some believe the pyramid was used for ritual offerings. Others think it was a symbolic vault, protecting wealth or knowledge. What makes this discovery strange is that the coins were never meant to be spent. They were meant to be hidden. If you found this today, would you open it or seal it again?
Anybody can go back to the 1900s and look at all the mental asylums. And this is interesting. These buildings are absolutely massive and they have like thousands of rooms. So then you start to wonder, why would someone build a mental asylum that large? Imagine the resources it would take. And especially because around the 1900s, you see people building little houses that are like wooden shacks. They're all like little wooden shacks all over because they were trying to build something. Then you have these huge mental asylums where they were locking up people who went against the narrative. That's what those were used for. Anybody who said they were hearing voices because of the rollout of the radio, or going against any of these that they were trying to put into everybody's arm at that time, or trying to go against paying taxes, they threw them in the mental asylum and they locked them up. And they got rid of a lot of the population at that time, or a portion of that population, who went against the grain. So people should look into the 1900 mental asylums and that whole thing and start to see that the buildings and the size and the structure, and then they demolished all of them. Actually, there was one in Chicago that I went to one time. I remember I had to deliver a pizza back in the day, and it was a mental asylum. And they demoed it in Chicago, and I wonder why. Got to get rid of the history.
The buildings in which we just saw and how heavy they were, right? Tons and tons of stones. Well, here's a stone that probably weighs about 20 tons and can barely move from a truck, right? You're trying to move that, the truck's moving, everything's falling, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And especially, let's say these buildings were built in the 1800s or 1700s when there were only about 1,000 people and none of this technology existed. Well, that's another good question. How on earth did all of those things get built, right? Or moved, or something like this, right? Or something like this. I think it goes to show that when we look into the past, things were very, very advanced, but we were told that we were supposedly, like I said, running around on horses and wagons and on. So we're going to go back to 1893 Chicago, and this is not the Chicago in which I know, right? The Chicago I know does not have statues like this and look anything like this. But this is what Chicago looked like before it was reset, right? The fires that we heard about in Chicago and all those things, they were removing all of this. Look at this detail. This is a completely different city in which we know of today. Because look at this. Look at the architecture. Look at the design. Think of how hard it would be to create all of this, right? We can barely make a little bean and wrap it in mirrored paper, let alone statues like this made out of copper, right? Look at this archway. Look at the detail here. This is in Chicago. This is old world history, which is not taught about, right? They keep us in the dark. They don't teach us about our true potential and how there used to be a unified, advanced society, which built like this all over the world.
Can get into the stones that people used to wear, the lapis lazuli. This is a sulfur-based stone. This used to be embedded into all of the different buildings as well. All of the mosques. This is a really cool one too. All of the mosques throughout Iran have lapis lazuli inside and installed into them. And that is a very powerful stone. This is the stone of Edgar Cayce that turns on the third eye. And this is a sulfur-based stone, and sulfur connects to radium. Radium connects to uranium, and that connects to energy. So if you notice the connection that we see here, that all of these old world buildings used to be connected to the energetic principle that we once had. Now we just build things out of, in boxes and plastic and DuPont and other garbage, things like that. But it's just the more you get into it, the more you start to understand the energetic principle of all these different materials. Somebody said, what, the Tartarians built the Great Wall of China? Yes, that's what's going on. And they were fighting with the Chinese all the time. So you kind of see how a lot of things have been kind of ripped out of the history books, because obviously they don't want to talk about who is building things.
Pulsating glowing UFO appears on a NASA livestream and then they cut the feed. Check this out. January 28th, 2022, on an ISS livestream, a strange object kind of wanders into frame, and then it appears to pause and then move off in a completely different direction. Check this out. Now, as this object starts to move away, it kind of pulls a strange turn and then changes trajectory once again. Now, I don't know about you, but this object doesn't appear to be a Chinese lantern, or maybe even swamp gas, I don't even know, but this is exhibiting some very strange and peculiar behaviours, right? And the way it's glinting and flashing reminds me of maybe more so plasmoid formations. Look at the way this thing is moving. It seems like it's exhibiting some sort of intelligence, I'd say. And then in true NASA fashion, it cuts the live feed.
This is an opera building, okay? Who would have their opera in this stone building? This building, it says, itself cost $7.5 million in 1861. 1861, $7.5 million. It also has $10 million worth of furniture. That's what it says on the back of here. And they say, this is the best. It was founded, right here, founded on the back. Founded, right? They found it, is what they did, in 1671. So you're telling me in 1671, someone built a $7.5 million building out of stone with $10 million worth of furniture. In 1671, they had this building. And then in 1875, they turned it into a theater. So 200 years later, they're like, yeah, it'll be a $7.5 million theater. And it talks about the staircases. It talks about, how everything was made out of colored marble and Corinthian columns. There was a green room for ballet, and it was for the opera. The Paris city has been reset many times, over and over and over again. And same with the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is an atmospheric energy antenna. There used to be an orb.
So you see this white object, daytime sky, very cloudy sky. You see this sort of white metallic looking object moving across the screen in a straight line in a relatively fast speed. And it is shaped kind of like a U or a C. It's kind of crescent shaped in a way, but they're trying to keep it in frame. And this was shot in 2007. So the footage is a little bit grainy, kind of low resolution as you would expect from something filmed in 2007. But now they're really zoomed in on it here, but you do see very clearly here that it is metallic and it is shaped like a kind of a horseshoe. It's kind of shaped like a horseshoe. That's a really good shot of the object right there as they're zoomed in on it. And again, it's moving very quickly. There's no visible means of propulsion coming off of this object. I don't believe it's making any noise. You can see the underside of it is a little bit darker than the top, but that thing is moving fast. And now they're showing a photo of the UAP that was shot down above Canada in 2023, and that literally just looks like the letter C, but very similar object there. I don't think I've ever seen a clip of anything quite like this before. There's a good shot of it right there. Again, appears to be the front of the object, like maybe the cockpit. Really bizarre clip, very compelling, especially considering this was shot, well before the modern AI video. I mean, obviously this could be potentially CG or edited, but I don't feel like it is. I feel like that this is an authentic clip of something caught on camera flying over South Korea. I want to hear from you in the comments down below. Do you think that this is an authentic clip of a UFO flying over South Korea in 2007? And if so, what do you think this object is? Or do you think it is explainable by some other means? Let me know all your theories in the comments down below.
Now, this is one of the most exciting news sightings there has been. This has never been seen before on British television. What is the story behind this?
It was submitted anonymously, which is the first problem with the film, in the sense that we can't really chase up the person who filmed it. It appears to have come from some sort of an official source, because the allegation is that when it was taken in a remote area of Ontario in Canada in August 1991, the military were present and supposedly even recovered the object, which was in trouble. You can see in parts of the film what appear to be military vehicles down below with flares and so on. And what you're looking at there is apparently, supposedly, a rotating disc-like object, which it certainly does look like. And that's what's extraordinary about it, because most films of UFOs show lights in the sky, which frankly could be anything. And although, of course, with modern technology, with what you can do with trick photography, you can always argue that maybe that is a hoax, and we can never be sure until we've adequately investigated it.
Okay.
At first glance, it looks impressive.
You know the octopus theory, right?
What?
They landed on Earth through meteors and landed in the ocean. That's why they're only found in the ocean, and that's why they look so different from everything else in the world.
Yeah.
And they know how to get out of jars. They can maneuver really well. Very intellectual creatures.
100%.
Very different from everything else. Theory was, before continuing, I wanted to warn you guys. Their phones were being spied on. Click on this icon, then on more. If you see it, delete it immediately. Bacteria or whatever organism that was stuck onto something in space landed on Earth. landed in the ocean, and then that's how they multiply.
Yeah.
It's in the ocean.
Yo, I don't know if you've seen that TikToker who like he looks at like the tapes of like octopus getting like attacked and like different animals and say, oh, if they're like this type of fighter, they called the octopus. It's funny you said that because they called the octopus the John Jones of the sea.
It is.
Yeah, no, real shit. Because it's like when you look at the tape, fam, anything that gets close to it, fam, they'll shoot the ink and then they'll disappear and then they'll headlock it. You know?
Yeah. They're really, really smart.
Yeah.
What would happen if Earth or a human fell into a black hole? For the very big black holes, and if you fell towards that one, then as far as we know, you would fall across the horizon into the interior of the black hole and you'd be unaffected. You wouldn't notice as you fell across the horizon. And then you'd have something like, I can't remember the exact number, but it's something like 30 hours-ish inside the black hole until you approach the singularity, which is in your future when you cross the horizon. So it's not something you can avoid. It's like trying to avoid tomorrow. You can't do that. So you go to this singularity, which is, in Einstein's theory, the end of time. And just before you get there, you get spaghettified, which means you get stretched in one direction and squashed in the other, and even your atoms get ripped apart, and then you go to the end of time. So that's not nice. However, when viewed from the outside, you might look to get, it might appear you get incinerated before you cross the horizon. But from your perspective, it seems that you wouldn't get incinerated. From your perspective, you'd go inside and then you get spaghettified. And then the question is, do you get vaporized or spaghettified? And the answer might be both, which is called black hole complementarity, which is all very complicated.